According to Dr. Joseph Murphy, 2 simple words whispered before you sleep can unlock a force so powerful it can reshape your entire reality, your relationships, your health, your finances, your purpose, everything you have ever desired. Now I know what you're thinking. 2 words. That sounds far too simple to actually work, and I understand that skepticism completely. I felt the same way the first time I heard this. But here's what stopped me from dismissing it entirely. Joseph Murphy wasn't a motivational speaker selling empty promises. He was a doctor of philosophy, a minister, and one of the most serious researchers of the human mind who ever lived. His book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, has sold over 10 million copies across the world and continues to change lives decades after it was first written. This man dedicated his entire life to understanding one single question. Why do some people seem to effortlessly attract everything they desire, while others work twice as hard and still feel like they're falling behind? The answer he found after decades of research wasn't about hustle. It wasn't about talent. It wasn't even about intelligence. It was about 2 words. And tonight, I'm going to tell you exactly what those words are, why they work, and how to use them in a way that actually produces results in your real life. But before I reveal the words, I need you to understand something first, because if you skip this part, the words won't work for you. Most people approach manifestation completely backwards. They try to force their conscious mind to believe something it hasn't experienced yet. They sit down, they repeat affirmations in front of a mirror, they try to visualize their dream life, and within a few minutes their conscious mind starts arguing back. It says things like, "This is ridiculous. Nothing's going to change, you've tried this before." And that internal resistance is exactly why most people give up and conclude that this stuff doesn't work. But here's what Joseph Murphy discovered that changed everything. The conscious mind is not where your reality is created. It is simply the gatekeeper. The real architect of your life, the part of you that is actually responsible for what you attract, what opportunities appear, what decisions you make, how people respond to you, and what you ultimately achieve, is your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind operates by an entirely different set of rules. Your subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't analyze, it doesn't judge whether something is realistic or unrealistic. It simply accepts whatever is repeatedly impressed upon it as truth, and then it gets to work making the truth your external reality. This is why 2 words, repeated at the right moment, in the right state, with the right consistency, can produce results that seem almost miraculous to the outside observer, because you are not trying to convince your conscious mind of anything. You are going directly to the source. You are speaking directly to the part of you that actually builds your life from the inside out. Now here is the key that most people completely miss. And this is the detail that separates people who experience real transformation from people who try this for 3 nights and quit. The timing. Joseph Murphy was deeply specific about this in his writings. He identified 2 windows of time each day when the gateway between the conscious and subconscious mind is naturally open. When the filter drops, when suggestions don't have to fight their way past logic and doubt. The first window is in the morning, in those hazy moments just after you wake up, before full waking consciousness takes over. The second window, and Murphy considered this the more powerful of the 2, is at night, in those final moments before sleep, when your conscious mind is beginning to fade and your subconscious is rising to the surface. Murphy called this the hypnagogic state. Scientists today confirm it's real. In this state, your brain waves slow from the active beta waves of everyday thinking into the deeply receptive alpha and theta states. In this state, the subconscious mind is not just open, it is hungry, it is actively absorbing. Whatever you feed it in this window doesn't get filtered, doesn't get debated, doesn't get rejected. It goes in clean, deep, and it stays. This is why what you think about in the last few minutes before sleep matters more than almost anything else you do during the day. Most people spend those final moments scrolling through negative news, replaying arguments, worrying about tomorrow, rehearsing worst-case scenarios. And then they wonder why they wake up anxious, why they feel stuck, why the same problems seem to follow them year after year. They are literally programming their subconscious every single night, but they are programming it with fear, with lack, with limitation. And the subconscious, faithful and obedient as it is, delivers exactly what it has been told to expect. Joseph Murphy said something that has stayed with me since the first time I read it. He said, "The law of your mind is the law of belief, not the law of hard work, not the law of talent, the law of belief. What your subconscious believes, your life reflects. Change the belief, and you change the reflection." So what are the two words? The two words are I am, stay with me, because I know those two words might feel familiar. You may have heard them before. You may even feel a flicker of disappointment right now, thinking that's it. But I want you to hold that reaction for just a moment, because what Joseph Murphy taught about these two specific words goes so much deeper than anything you've likely encountered before. These are not just words. According to Murphy, I am is the most powerful declaration a human being can make, because whatever you place after those two words, your subconscious mind accepts as a direct command about your identity. And identity is everything. Your subconscious doesn't respond to wishes. It doesn't respond to wants. It responds to what you declare yourself to be. Think about the difference between saying, I want to be healthy, and I am healthy. The first statement tells your subconscious that health is somewhere out there, in the future, not yet arrived. The second statement, even if your body hasn't caught up yet, programs your subconscious to organize your biology, your behavior, your choices, your energy levels around the identity of a healthy person. Murphy documented case after case in his clinical work of people who used I am statements before sleep and experienced shifts in their physical health, their financial circumstances, their relationships, shifts that had no logical explanation other than the reprogramming of the subconscious mind. But here's where Murphy's teaching gets truly profound. He didn't just say repeat I am, followed by whatever you want. He taught that the words following I am must carry feeling, because the subconscious mind is not moved by words alone. It is moved by emotionally charged words, by words that feel true in the body, not just in the mouth. He wrote extensively about this distinction, the difference between mechanical repetition and what he called feeling the reality of the words you are speaking. Mechanical repetition produces little to no result. Emotionally saturated repetition, where you can feel even a small flicker of the truth of what you are saying, that is what triggers the subconscious into action. So the practice Murphy recommended is this. In those final minutes before sleep, when your eyes are closed and your body is relaxed and the day is falling away, you begin to gently, quietly, internally repeat your chosen I am statement, not forcefully, not desperately, gently, like you are whispering the truth of who you are to the deepest part of yourself. And as you repeat it, you reach for the feeling, even a small feeling, even just a thread of it. The feeling of already being the thing you are declaring. The feeling of already having arrived. The feeling of it being natural, normal, inevitable, because to your subconscious it already is. You don't need to force a massive emotional experience. Murphy was clear about this. Even a gentle sense of peace, of rightness, of quiet confidence, that is enough. That subtle emotional charge is the signal that tells the subconscious this is real, this is important, absorb this and build from it. And then you drift to sleep carrying that feeling. And while you sleep, your subconscious gets to work, processing, reorganizing, preparing, connecting invisible dots, shifting the frequency at which you operate, arranging the circumstances of your life to match the identity you have declared. Now let me tell you what this actually looks like in practice, because Murphy was not vague about this. He gave specific examples and specific categories of I am statements for different areas of life. And I want to walk you through them so that tonight you know exactly what to say. If what you desire is abundance and financial freedom, Murphy recommended statements like, I am abundant, I am prosperous, I am a magnet for wealth and opportunity, I am financially free, choose one, not 5, not 10, one. Repeat it softly, repeatedly as you fall asleep. Let it be the last conscious thought your mind holds before sleep takes over. Murphy described this as planting a seed in the most fertile soil in existence, the sleeping subconscious. And like any seed, you don't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. You plant it with faith, you water it with consistency, and you trust the process that is happening beneath the surface. If what you desire is vibrant health and physical well-being, the statements shift accordingly. I am healthy, I am whole, I am filled with energy and vitality. My body knows how to heal. My body is strong and capable. Murphy worked with people who were experiencing serious physical ailments who used these exact types of statements, people whose doctors had run out of explanations when their conditions improved dramatically. Murphy didn't claim these words replaced medicine, but he documented with absolute conviction that the subconscious mind has a direct channel to the body's healing intelligence, and that programming it with health before sleep activates that intelligence in ways that nothing else can. If what you desire is love, deep connection, meaningful relationships, I am loved, I am worthy of love. I am surrounded by people who uplift and cherish me. I am in a deeply fulfilling relationship. These statements, repeated in the receptive state before sleep, begin to shift something fundamental in how you carry yourself, how you enter a room, how you respond to people, how you allow others to treat you. Because your subconscious, now programmed with the identity of someone who is loved and worthy of love, will begin steering you through intuition, through subtle behavioral shifts, through the opportunities you notice and the ones you let pass, toward the relationships that match that identity. If what you desire is purpose, clarity, creative expression, I am guided. I am clear about my path. I am living my purpose. I am inspired and creative. I am exactly where I am meant to be. For people who feel lost, who feel like they are drifting through a life that doesn't quite fit them, these statements can feel almost impossibly bold to say at first. And that's okay. Murphy said you don't have to believe them with your conscious mind. You just have to say them. Because the subconscious doesn't care about your conscious doubts. It cares about repetition and feeling. Give it those two things, and it will begin building the belief from the inside out. Until one day you realize that the statement that once felt like a lie has quietly become your truth. And this is the part I want you to really sit with, because it is the part that most people never understand about how this works. The subconscious mind doesn't just change your inner experience. It changes your outer behavior in ways so subtle you don't even notice them happening. After a few weeks of programming, I am abundant. Before sleep, you don't just feel differently about money. You start making slightly different choices. You walk into a negotiation with a different energy. You mention your work to someone you might previously have been too shy to speak to. You notice an opportunity that your previous scarcity programmed mind would have scrolled right past. You respond to a setback with resilience instead of collapse. None of these feel like dramatic transformations in the moment. They feel like small, natural, almost unremarkable shifts. But compounded over weeks and months, these small shifts produce outcomes that look miraculous from the outside. Murphy called this the principle of invisible causation. The cause is happening in the invisible realm, inside your subconscious. The effect shows up in the visible world, your circumstances, your relationships, your finances, your health. Most people only work on the visible level, trying to change effects without touching the cause. The nightly I am practice works at the level of cause, and that is why it produces results that working only on the surface level never can. I want to share something personal here, because I think it matters. I first encountered Murphy's work during one of the most difficult periods of my life. I was exhausted. I felt invisible. I had been working incredibly hard for years and felt like I had almost nothing to show for it. I was skeptical of anything that sounded like a shortcut, because I had tried and been disappointed enough times to be deeply cautious. But something about Murphy's approach felt different to me. It wasn't asking me to pretend everything was fine. It wasn't asking me to force positivity or paste a smile over genuine pain. It was asking me to speak to the deepest part of myself in the quietest moment of the day and plant a different seed. Just a seed, not a fully grown tree overnight. Just a seed, so I tried it. I chose the statement, "I am guided and everything is working out for me." It felt slightly ridiculous the first night. It felt less ridiculous the second night. By the end of the first week, something had shifted, not in my circumstances, but in the quality of my inner experience. A low-level anxiety that I had become so accustomed to I'd forgotten it was there began to quiet. I started waking up with something that felt almost like anticipation instead of dread. Within a few weeks, I noticed I was responding to situations differently, making choices I wouldn't have made before. Conversations I hadn't expected led somewhere meaningful. Within a few months, I was in a completely different place, professionally, emotionally, in my sense of direction, than I had any logical reason to be. I am not telling you this to impress you. I am telling you this because I was the most skeptical person in the room, and it worked anyway. Because it doesn't require your belief. It only requires your consistency. Now let me address the question I know some of you are asking right now. Is this just positive thinking? Is this just placebo effect dressed up in spiritual language? And my answer to that is, even if it were, it would still be worth doing. Because the alternative is what? Spending your final minutes before sleep rehearsing worry and limitation, programming your subconscious with fear every single night, and then being confused about why your life feels fearful. Even purely from a psychological standpoint, the practice of directing your mind toward empowering beliefs at the threshold of sleep is one of the most evidence-aligned things you can do for your mental and emotional well-being. But Murphy went further than psychology. He pointed to something older, something that has appeared in wisdom traditions across every culture throughout human history, the understanding that consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its creation. That what we hold in mind with feeling and consistency, we eventually hold in hand. The ancient teachers knew this. Modern quantum physicists are beginning to map it mathematically. And Joseph Murphy, standing somewhere in between the ancient and the modern, spent his life translating it into something practical that an ordinary person could actually use on an ordinary Tuesday night before they fell asleep. The practice is simple. The commitment is what makes it powerful. Choose one I am statement that speaks to your deepest desire. Something that when you say it, even if it doesn't feel fully true yet, something in you reaches toward it. Something in you recognizes it as what you are moving toward. Write it down if that helps. Make it specific enough to feel real, but expansive enough to allow the subconscious to find its own path toward it. Then tonight, when you are lying in the dark, when the day has finally gone quiet, when your body is heavy and your breathing has slowed, begin to repeat it. Softly, internally, without strain, without desperation, without trying to force anything. Just repeat it like a gentle truth. I am. And whatever follows those two words for you. Repeat it as you feel yourself drifting. Let it be the last thing your conscious mind carries before sleep takes over. And then let go. Let your subconscious receive what you have given it and do what it does best: build, organize, arrange, and deliver. Do this for 30 days without missing a single night. Not because 30 days is a magic number, but because consistency is the water that allows the seed to grow. Some of you will notice shifts in the first week. Some of you will notice them in the third week. Some of you will wake up one morning 6 weeks from now and realize that something has fundamentally changed in how you feel, in what you're doing, in what's showing up in your life, and you won't be able to point to a single dramatic moment when it happened. Because that's not how subconscious transformation works. It doesn't announce itself. It simply quietly, inexorably reshapes your life from the inside out until one day you look around and realize this is it. This is what I asked for. This is what I planted in the dark, in the quiet, in those final moments before sleep, and it grew. Joseph Murphy believed, with the full weight of his decades of research and the thousands of lives he witnessed transformed, that every single human being has access to a power within them that is connected to something infinite. Something that does not recognize impossibility. Something that, once properly directed, can move circumstances, open doors, attract people, generate ideas, and reshape reality in ways the conscious mind alone could never engineer. That power lives in your subconscious, and the doorway to your subconscious opens every single night, right before you sleep. You have been walking past that open door for years. Tonight, you can walk through it. 2 words. Whatever feels most true and most alive for you, said softly, felt gently, repeated faithfully in the sacred quiet before sleep. That is all. That is everything. Start tonight. Your subconscious is already waiting. If this resonated with you, explore the other videos on this channel. We go deep into Murphy's teachings, the science of the subconscious, and the practical tools that actually produce change in real life. And if you know someone who feels stuck, who is quietly searching for something but doesn't know what, share this with them. You might be planting a seed for them tonight too. Thank you for being here. And before you go, I want to leave you with something that Joseph Murphy wrote that I have never been able to forget. He said, "The treasure house is within you. Look within for the answer to your heart's desire." Because the great truth he spent his life trying to communicate wasn't complicated. It wasn't reserved for the spiritually gifted or the intellectually elite. It was available to every single person who was willing to be still enough, consistent enough, and humble enough to stop trying to force life from the outside and start shaping it from the inside. We live in a world that is obsessed with external action. Do more, hustle harder, optimize your morning routine, track your habits. And there is nothing wrong with action. Action matters. But Murphy observed something that the hustle culture never accounts for. He noticed that 2 people could take the identical actions and produce completely different results. Same industry, same effort, same starting conditions, wildly different outcomes. And when he traced the difference back to its root, every single time, he found it in the subconscious programming of the individual. One person was acting from a subconscious foundation of belief, expectancy, and deserving. The other was acting from a subconscious foundation of doubt, unworthiness, and waiting to be disappointed. Same actions. Completely different internal soil. And the harvest always matches the soil, not the effort. This is why you can work exhausting hours and still feel like you're spinning in place. This is why some people seem to stumble into opportunities without even trying, while you feel invisible no matter how hard you push. It is not luck. It is not favoritism. It is subconscious programming. And the most powerful moment to reprogram, it is not in the middle of a busy afternoon when your conscious mind is loud and defensive and analytical. It is in that liminal space before sleep, when the drawbridge lowers, when the guard steps away from the gate, when your subconscious sits open and waiting and receptive like a field of dark, rich soil at the end of autumn, ready for whatever seed you choose to plant. Murphy documented a story in his work that I think about often. A man came to him deeply frustrated. He had been trying to improve his financial situation for years. He was educated, he was capable, he was working hard, and yet nothing seemed to move. Murphy asked him one simple question. He asked him what he thought about in the last few minutes before he fell asleep each night. The man paused, and then he said honestly, "I lie there and I go over everything that went wrong that day. I think about the bills. I think about the clients I lost. I think about how far behind I am. I think about whether I'm going to make it." Murphy nodded slowly and said, "Then you have your answer. You are spending the most powerful programming window of every single day reinforcing exactly the reality you are trying to escape. Your subconscious is not broken. It is working perfectly. It is delivering precisely what you have been ordering every night before you sleep." The man changed his practice that same evening. He began using I am statements before sleep. Within weeks, his energy shifted. Within months, his circumstances shifted. Not because the universe rewarded his positive thinking with a magical windfall, but because his subconscious, now programmed with a new identity, began organizing his behavior, his attention, his communication, his decisions around that identity. He started showing up differently. He started noticing differently. He started responding to opportunities that his fear-programmed mind would have dismissed or missed entirely. The external shift was real, but it began in those quiet moments in the dark before sleep. I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in conversations about subconscious programming, and that is the concept Murphy called mental housekeeping. He was very direct about this. He said that imprinting positive statements before sleep while spending the rest of your day bathing your mind in negativity is like planting seeds in good soil and then poisoning the water. The nightly practice is the most powerful window, but it doesn't operate in isolation. It is amplified or undermined by the mental environment you maintain throughout your waking hours. This doesn't mean you need to be relentlessly positive. Murphy was not teaching toxic positivity. He was deeply compassionate toward human struggle, and he never suggested that people should pretend pain doesn't exist or difficulties aren't real. What he taught was conscious selectivity. The practice of noticing when your inner dialogue is reinforcing lack, limitation, unworthiness, or fear, and making a deliberate choice to redirect it. Not to force it into false cheerfulness, but to redirect it toward possibility, toward what could be true, toward the version of your story where things work out. He used a beautiful analogy that I keep returning to. He said the conscious mind is like the captain of a ship giving orders. The subconscious is the crew below deck who carries out those orders without question, without judgment, without asking whether the orders make sense. The crew doesn't debate the captain. They don't evaluate whether the destination is realistic. They simply execute. So the only question that matters is, what orders is the captain giving? What are you, as the conscious mind, the decision maker, the gatekeeper? What are you consistently directing your inner crew to build? Most people have handed the captaincy over to their fears, their doubts, their past disappointments. Their inherited beliefs about what people like them are allowed to have and achieve and become, and then they stand on the deck bewildered, wondering why the ship keeps arriving at the same unwanted destination. The 2 words before sleep, the I am practice, is the act of reclaiming the captain's wheel, of giving your inner crew a new destination, and doing it in the window of time when the crew is most attentive, most receptive, most ready to receive and execute a new set of orders. Murphy also wrote about what he called the law of reversibility, which is the understanding that just as your internal state creates your external circumstances, your external behaviors and words, repeated consistently enough, eventually reshape your internal state. This is important because it means you don't have to wait until you feel abundant to say, I am abundant. You don't have to wait until you feel loved to say, I am loved. You don't have to wait until you feel guided to say, I am guided. The repetition itself, especially in the hypnagogic state before sleep, creates the feeling over time. You begin with the word. The feeling follows. And then the circumstance follows the feeling. This is the sequence most people have backwards. They are waiting to feel it before they'll say it, but Murphy's entire body of work was saying no. Say it first, consistently, in the right state, with even the smallest reach toward the feeling, and the feeling will come. And when the feeling comes, the reality follows. Let me give you something very practical to walk away with tonight, because I don't want this to remain abstract for you. I want you to actually do this. So here is the complete practice, exactly as Murphy outlined it, distilled into its simplest form. In the last 5 to 10 minutes before you sleep, put your phone down. Let the day go. Take 3 slow, deliberate breaths, not because breathing is magic, but because it physically shifts your nervous system from the activated state of daytime consciousness into the quieter, more receptive state where the subconscious becomes accessible. Feel your body relax into the surface beneath you. Feel the weight of the day beginning to lift. Then, in your mind, or in a whisper so quiet it barely moves the air, begin to repeat your chosen I am statement. Choose one that corresponds to your deepest current desire. If you are not sure which area of life to focus on, Murphy recommended asking yourself, if one thing changed, what would make the greatest difference in how I feel about my life right now? Start there. Choose a statement that speaks to that area and that feels both true enough to say and expansive enough to stretch you slightly. Repeat it gently, slowly. There is no urgency here, no performance. This is not a race. You are not trying to impress anyone, including yourself. You are simply planting, over and over, the same seed in the same rich soil, in the same sacred quiet. I am abundant. I am healthy. I am loved. I am guided. I am enough. I am becoming. Whatever it is for you, repeat it until sleep takes you. If your mind wanders, bring it back without frustration. The wandering is normal. The returning is the practice. And when you wake in the morning, before the rush of the day pulls you fully into its current, spend even 60 seconds returning to the statement, not with the same depth as the nighttime practice, but as a gentle reminder, a signal to your subconscious that the programming from the night before is still active, still true, still being reinforced. This bookending of sleep, the statement before and the brief return after, is what Murphy considered the complete practice. Night is for deep planting. Morning is for watering. Do this and notice what begins to shift. Not just in your circumstances, although those will shift, but in yourself. In the quality of your attention. In the way you hold your body when you walk into a room. In the risks you are willing to take. In the people you find yourself drawn to and drawing toward you. In the ideas that appear seemingly from nowhere while you are in the shower or driving or walking. These are not coincidences. These are the fingerprints of a subconscious that has received new programming and is actively, faithfully, invisibly reorganizing your reality to match it. Joseph Murphy lived to 90 years old. He spent the vast majority of those years studying, teaching, writing, and witnessing transformation in ordinary human lives. Not in extraordinary people, not in the naturally gifted or the extraordinarily lucky. In ordinary people who were willing to do one simple, consistent, humble thing, to speak truth to their subconscious before sleep, to plant the seed of who they were becoming in the only soil where real growth begins. He believed, and his decades of documented evidence supported this belief, that there is no ceiling on what the subconscious mind, properly directed, can achieve for a human life. No financial ceiling, no health ceiling, no love ceiling, no ceiling on purpose, on creative expression, on impact, on joy. The only ceiling that exists is the one installed by old programming. And old programming can be replaced. It can be replaced tonight. In the dark, in the quiet, with 2 words and whatever truth you choose to place after them. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too old or too damaged or too far gone for this to work. You are someone who found this information at exactly the moment you were ready to receive it. And that is not an accident. That is already your subconscious moving, already reaching toward the version of your life that matches what you most deeply desire. So tonight, put the phone down a few minutes earlier than usual, take the 3 breaths, feel your body settle, and begin. I am. 2 words that have unlocked more human potential than any strategy, any system, any morning routine or productivity hack ever devised. 2 words that connect you to the infinite intelligence living in the deepest part of you. 2 words that, spoken faithfully in the sacred threshold before sleep, have the power to change everything. Joseph Murphy believed that with his whole life. And now, the only question is whether you're willing to find out if he was right. Start tonight. Your subconscious is listening. If this video reached something in you, if it gave you something to hold on to, please share it with someone who needs it. And explore the rest of this channel. Every video is built around the same intention, to give you real tools for real transformation, rooted in the wisdom of the teachers who actually did the work. We will see you in the next one. And I want to leave you with one final thought before you go, because I think it might be the most important thing I've said in this entire video. Most people will watch this. They will feel something stir inside them. They will think, yes, this makes sense. This feels true. I'm going to try this tonight. And then life will continue. The notification will come. the thought will drift. The evening will fill up with other things. And tonight will pass like every other night has passed, with the subconscious receiving whatever it randomly absorbed from the final scroll through a phone screen or the last anxious thought about tomorrow. And that is not a judgment. That is just the gravity of habit. Habit is heavy. It pulls everything back toward what is familiar, what is comfortable, what requires no conscious decision. And the conscious decision, the tiny, quiet, almost invisible decision to put the phone down 5 minutes earlier and speak 2 words into the dark, that decision is so small that it's easy to postpone, easy to say tomorrow, easy to mean it and still not do it. But I want you to consider something. Every single version of your life that you have ever wanted, the financial freedom, the deep love, the vibrant health, the sense of purpose that makes you feel genuinely alive, every single one of those versions begins with a decision so small it barely feels like a decision at all. Not a grand gesture, not a dramatic reinvention, not a perfect moment when all the conditions are finally right. A small, quiet, humble act repeated in the dark, when nobody is watching, when there is no applause and no immediate reward. Just you and the deepest part of yourself and 2 words. Joseph Murphy understood something about human beings that I think we often forget in the noise of modern life. He understood that we are not small, that the life force running through us is not limited by our current circumstances or our past failures or the opinions of people who couldn't see our potential. He understood that within every single person, regardless of where they started, regardless of what they've been through, regardless of how many times they've tried and been disappointed, there is something infinite waiting to be directed, waiting to be given a clear, consistent, emotionally honest signal about what to build next. That signal is I am, and the moment you choose to give it, tonight, in the quiet, at the threshold of sleep, you are not just saying 2 words. You are making a declaration to the most powerful force in your life. You are telling your subconscious, I am done ordering the same meal and being surprised when it keeps arriving. I am placing a new order now, and I am going to keep placing it every night until my outer world catches up with the inner world I am building in the dark. That is what Murphy taught. That is what transformed the lives of everyone who actually committed to this practice long enough to see it work. And that is what is available to you. Not someday, not when things get better, not when you feel more ready or more deserving or more certain that it will work. Tonight, 2 words, whatever truth you choose to carry them. And the faith, not blind faith, not desperate faith, just the quiet, patient faith of someone who has decided to plant a seed and trust that what is planted in the right soil, in the right season, at the right time of day, always grows. It always grows. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being someone who seeks. That seeking is itself a sign that your subconscious already knows something better is possible. Honor that knowing tonight. We will see you in the next video.